przed nami właśnie wykład bardzo istotny dla naszej dzisiejszej konferencji przedstawicielki firmy Microsoft Polska, pani Debii Hoehn. A zanudzam dlatego, że ten wykład jest tak skomplikowany i wymaga tak niebywałej precyzji technologicznej, że właśnie trwa instalacja sprzętu, który będzie do tego wykładu potrzebny. Przed nami zresztą jeszcze oprócz tego wykładu gość honorowy Open Source Day, profesor doktor habilitowany Dariusz Jemielniak z Akademii Leona Koźmińskiego. Potem będziemy mieli przerwę kawową, no a potem podzielimy, drodzy Państwo, tę salę na dwie i będą się równocześnie odbywać dwie prelekcje. Tak będzie zresztą do końca. Także będzie można krążyć, co pozwoli na uatrakcyjnienie naszego dzisiejszego dnia. Are we ready? Drodzy Państwo, Mrs. Debii Hoehn. The stage is yours. All right. All right.
All right, we're going to try this since my mic's not working. Thank you all. It's an interesting experience to have someone introduce you in a foreign language when you don't speak the language. Also, let me take this off in case it suddenly starts working. So thank you for the intro. I'm assuming it was very, very nice. And thank you to the person in the front row who told me that you were biding time until you saw me in the audience. So thank you all for letting me be here today. I'm really excited to be here. And I will say that, I know we say that a lot at Microsoft. It's probably the most commonly used phrase is super excited. And for me today, it's more than super excited because I'm also super nervous. About 2.5 years ago, Satya stood on stage and he talked about Microsoft loving Linux. And it made everybody at Microsoft very excited and very interested. I think it was the first time we really sat up and paid attention to what was happening within the OSS world because we had gone so far to start embracing it ourselves. And it's more than Linux, although Linux is obviously a huge part of that, but it is about the whole OSS ecosystem. And I think what's interesting here is when we talk about OSS and we talk about what we want to do at Microsoft, you've probably heard our mission. And if you haven't, it's okay. I will admit, for the first 8 years at Microsoft, I wasn't quite sure what our mission was. But now, 3 years later, after we've established this new one, I can repeat it. But our mission is to empower every person and organization on this planet to achieve more. And our cloud team did a very interesting thing with that. They sat back and they said, well, if we're really going to do that, how do we do that without enabling the OSS ecosystem? Because we'll just eliminate at least a third of the people we would want to work with. And so they sat back and they started to think about what is their mission. And I'm going to read this to you verbatim, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the cloud team came out with their own mission, which is to deliver the most productive and trustworthy cloud services platform that enables customers using any framework on any device or OS to create and power the world's applications and services. And that's a lot of words, but what it essentially means is we need to go where our customers are. So what does that journey look like? I debated just reading this slide to you, but you can look at this. I debated talking about how this journey goes back even further to 2004 when we released the Windows installer to SourceForge, or 2005 when Gates actually penned the first interrupt memo. But instead, I thought I would tell you why I'm here today. Those of you who don't like to listen to English speakers, you can tune out and just read the slide. I won't be offended. But why am I here? I first learned to code when I went to university, and I took a coding course by accident. I wanted to go into civil engineering, but my boyfriend was in civil engineering, and I didn't want to take the same program as my boyfriend. By the way, whoever decides that a 19-year-old should make career decisions is insane. No one should ever make a career decision at 19. So instead, I took Fortran. Obviously, who doesn't take a Fortran class? And I loved it. I loved it. I found there was poetry in coding. It was something I didn't know. And so I actually learned to code in the Unix platform. And after graduating from university, my career took me on a slightly different path. And what I learned was that my path was chosen for me because of the jobs I took, which I think some of us are in that same situation, right? So when they asked me to speak today, I got scared because I'm not an OSS person. And I actually told the team, I was like, but they're gonna know. They're gonna know I'm not an OSS person. They're gonna see right through me. And they told me that's actually the best person to come talk sometimes, because then you get to see what I've learned, and you get to see the excitement. So, for the first time also ever in a presentation, I have my handy Surface with notes, because what I found is I have 20 minutes, which means, and I could say very few things in Polish, but nie mam czasu, nie mam dosyć czasu. There's way too much to talk about in 20 minutes. Dziękuję. There's way too much to talk about in 20 minutes. I don't know how we're gonna do this. So I actually had to take notes to keep myself on track, and I think I'm already off track anyway, but that's okay. So that's where our journey is. Like, everybody at Microsoft is now actually being trained on open source and working with open source. Everybody, salespeople, marketing people, developers, everybody's being trained on it and what it means to work with open source. And that, to me, is the biggest indication of the cultural shift that we're undergoing at the company. And you can look at this momentum we have, right? I don't know when, I can't remember the dates, I'm sorry, but I can't remember when PowerShell was launched as an open source technology available on Linux, and I think almost everybody fell over. And now, my favorite stat, though, the thing that I learned, which I was very surprised at, is that nearly 1 in 3 VMs running in Azure are on Linux today. This is a big deal for us, right? So we've got this momentum, we've got a lot of people working on it, and then just at Build recently, we announced coming to the Windows Store, Ubuntu, Fedora, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna say it wrong, OpenSUSE. We're actually launching these coming to Windows Store, which is pretty exciting for our organization, and I know we've got people here who are actually doing demos on them to people now. And also, SQL. SQL's coming to Linux. We actually launched SQL into a private preview in March of last year, and then in November we extended it to a public preview. And I want to show you a couple stats from this, and this is why, again, going where our customers go. In preview mode, we already have 20,000 applications that have been developed. And 36% of our enterprise databases actually run in Linux. So if you put those things together, there's clearly demand for it. And if we say we're going to empower everybody, then that means we need to go and bring SQL Server to Linux as well. So, this journey, what's our approach? I'm here today to speak on behalf of about 100,000 people to tell you why we're excited about our approach. Because you can't go out as a major corporation of 100,000 people and just say, we're going to be open source friendly. It just doesn't work. You have to have an approach. And we've found there are 4 pillars that we need to do. The first, probably the biggest, is enable other open source technologies to run well on our platform. We need to integrate those that we don't necessarily enable. We need to integrate and bring into it. We need to build those partnerships. We need to release our own products as open source. And we need to continue to contribute to the community. Right now at Microsoft, we have, say, hundreds of people, I'm sorry, actually I'm gonna get these stats right. Hundreds of repos and over 3,000 people just in the Azure GitHub organization. And we know that the ecosystem expects from us more day one projects. And we're definitely looking for opportunities to do so. So let me shift now. Now that you understand how we got to where we are, why we are where we are, and I know there are people here who are gonna be skeptical. I completely understand. I mean, I was scared to come up here. There's a huge fear to learn something new in myself. And then there's skepticism that goes along with it, right? Like, but I am already comfortable with where I am. I already know what I know. So that's cool. I completely understand. If you're skeptical about it, that's fine. If I convince 1 or maybe 2 people to give it a try, to try out something new today on Azure, I'll be happy. And if you want to talk to any of us about your own skepticism, absolutely grab us. We've got a booth in the back. So, I lost my screen. We've got 4 scenarios I do want to talk to, and I'm going to check my time quick, because I think I'm the only one who actually has a timer up here, so there's no timer. So all of your presenters who are running long are not being malicious, they just don't know how long they've been talking. The first scenario I want to talk about today is dev test. This one is very near to my heart. And this is something that actually was the first one I started to learn about when I started to learn the OSS space, and probably the one that was the most relevant to me. So as a former program manager, I was a program manager for about 5 years at Microsoft. And I don't know if there are other program managers in here, but there are definitely going to be other developers in here. There's nothing scarier than going to release to production. You've done all your testing, you think you know everything, and something fails in production, and you've got people screaming at you, I can't get my sales in. I worked in the advertising platform. There's nothing scarier than having an advertising person come to you and tell you, I can't get my sale in, and there's 3 days left of the month. To be fair, we actually never release code with 3 days left of the month. We're smarter than that. But this is the one that actually made me start to realize, and this is where I started to get more comfortable with OSS, is because we all face the same problems, right? That's the fact. If you are looking to improve your DevOps, you're doing it because you want to improve productivity for your developers. Very simple. You want to reduce costs, and you want to improve your provisioning time. This scenario, whether it's on a Linux-based system or whether it's on a Windows system, it's all the same, really. We all want to do the same thing. So you want to, and it's right here, in fact, increase developer productivity, reduce your costs, and improve provisioning. You'll see on the slide as well, we have a couple of things that I liked that the team did, and I want to thank them. I don't even think they're in the room right now. They're probably taking questions. But they show you who are our partners in this space, as well as customers who are already starting to use these scenarios. And you can actually read more about these scenarios. I'll give you a link to those so you can see them. So why would you switch to Azure? Well, we have the hybrid solution. You're going to hear that in just about every scenario we talk about. It's a unique framework which seamlessly integrates your on-prem and cloud. Ease of administration. I don't know. In the US, segregation of duties was huge for us, and limiting costs. Like, segregation of duties first and foremost. Who has access to your dev system? Who has access to your test system? Who has access to which test system? Who has access to production? That's a huge overhead for anybody, so we want to make that simpler. We have comprehensive architecture choices between IaaS, containers, and PaaS. And of course, we've released, I shouldn't say of course, that's not assuming you know. We've released Azure Functions to enable event-driven computing. The next scenario I want to talk through is Java Enterprise. This was one that was harder for me, I admit it. And in fact, this is the one I have the most notes on, but I'm going to try not to read them directly. The thing that stood out for me with the Java Enterprise platforms is the reason you might want to move to the cloud, and reason you might want to consider Microsoft. And I'm going to say one thing really quick. Przepraszam, I just realized I am talking za szybko. I'm very excited, so throw things at me if I'm talking too fast, okay? So why would you move to the cloud if you're on Java Enterprise? I think the biggest reason, at least the one that I saw that was the most compelling, is access to other Java developers. That's a huge growing population. Being in the cloud, you have more access to them. So to me, Java Enterprise, like everything else up here is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about it. But getting access to developers who are developing in Java is huge. We also have, and I don't think this is on the slide, and I don't know why, but people here probably know we do have a relationship with Red Hat, and we have a conflict-free Red Hat in implementation within Microsoft, so that you don't have to worry about running on a separate instance, and there's great support there. And finally, there is, for developer productivity, again, something near and dear to my heart as a program manager, Team Foundation Server plugin for Eclipse. Jumping to the next, because I know I'm taking too much time. But again, I said it 3 times. I'll say it for the 4th, and then I promise I'll say it again. I'm just really excited to be here. LAMP and mean-powered web applications. Where to start? I think the big thing for me here, if I look at this, is you want to rapidly build, deploy, and dynamically scale up and down. We have, for that, Azure Security Center with advanced threat. I'm sorry, not for that. We have Azure Security Center for advanced threat detection and prevention. So we've partnered with people like Threat Micro and Symantec and Cisco to build a unique dashboard to allow you to fix security vulnerabilities directly from the portal. This is a big change for us. And one thing that I haven't mentioned in the other slides, and you would think would be my first point, is the global reach that we have. So we have 34 regions operating Azure right now. And we have tremendous partnerships here. So bringing over your LAMP and mean applications to Azure becomes very simple, and there's great reason to do so. And then finally, we have my favorite. This is the one that I have to stick to my notes on because I could talk about this one for hours. So my background, as I mentioned, was when I learned to code. It was Fortran, it was C and C++. But what I self-taught myself was data analysis, and I love it. I could spend all day doing data analysis. In fact, there were days that I have spent all days doing data analysis to the detriment of my other work. So if you're running HPC and data analysis workloads on Linux, you can tap into the power of Microsoft through Azure and a broad ecosystem. And there are 3 things here that I think are the most important for any person running data. We have advanced HPC technology. we have a faster network and can offer up to 40 gigabytes per second. And we have hybrid clusters that allow you to burst to Azure. And the net of all this means that we can help reduce your costs with a more powerful infrastructure and faster network. That speaks volumes to any data person, because if you can become more efficient and more cost effective, it just means more processing that you can do. So I believe I'm at time. I know I have some resources here. I assume we will make them available somehow. If not, feel free to tweet at me and I'll send you what I have. I also want to give a shout out to the people here from Microsoft who are actually already at the booth and here to answer questions, do demos, whatever you want to see, they're here to talk about it. Probably the biggest change in our culture is the people out there are actually people we're hiring from the OSS community. We're not just training people like me to come up and learn it and speak about it. We're actually bringing in people from the community to tell us what we're doing well and what we're doing wrong. Someone actually demoed to me today how he could take down his own Windows his own Windows operating system with, I think he said it was 8 characters or less. And he did it, and then he had to go and do a forced reboot just to get it come back and running. So the team's out here. I want to thank you all today. Thank you for having me here. I'm incredibly excited about what I'm learning. My team is a developer experiences team, and they are actually being upskilled on all topics around Linux especially. And it's one of the areas where we're starting to do more and more projects. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, if you want to talk to someone in my team. And I'm happy to put you in touch with other people at Microsoft. Thank you, and have a great rest of day. I think I may have gotten you at least 2 or 3 minutes back in the agenda.